Before the fall, there were flashes, camera flashes, and forced smiles. They called her a hero, a symbol, a face that proved women could wear the uniform and wear it well. But no one ever asked Maddie Ross if she wanted to be any of that. She didn't join the army for fame. She joined for the same reason her father did, to serve, to escape, to prove something. But the army needed a woman like her, tall, white, blue-eyed, blonde. She photographed well. She listened more than she spoke. And when they handed her the tagline, "This is what strength looks like," she didn't argue. She just nodded and posed. The first thing they asked her to do wasn't carry a weapon. It was cut her hair. Shorter, more tactical, more professional. Maddie hesitated, not out of vanity, but identity. Her hair was the last part of herself that felt hers. She stared in the mirror the night before the appointment, brushing through the strands slowly, fingers trembling. Still, she showed up the next morning, sat in the chair, didn't ask questions. Because she believed obedience meant protection, they shaved it to regulation short. Not quite bald, but close enough to see her scalp shine under the fluorescent light. Her neck felt cold, the uniform collar rubbed differently. She tried to laugh with the others, to act like it didn't matter. But deep down, Maddie felt a quiet kind of grief. Something had been taken, not just hair, not just image, but permission to feel like a woman, to feel like herself. As months passed, her image was everywhere. On posters, in commercials, in school presentations. They called her the poster girl. And for a while, she wore it like a badge. But the whisper started too. She's the favorite. Gets all the attention. Probably never even fired a weapon. Maddie heard them. She never responded. She told herself it didn't matter. But deep down, it hurt. Because while they printed her face, they never protected her name. Then the footage. It began as a ripple. A 15-second video posted anonymously in a private group chat. From inside the women's showers, grainy, shaky, intimate, shot through a vent. Gasps. Panic. The video spread like wildfire. Investigators swept the area, and inside the ventilation duct behind the soap rack, they found a tiny black device. A camera, rigged to a transmitter, broadcasting through a Wi-Fi hotspot named M. Ross 84. Maddie's initials, her birth year. That's all it took. There were no fingerprints, no surveillance footage of her placing it, no messages, no motive. But she was well known, resented, visible. The face of the Army's diversity campaign, and in moments of scandal, visibility becomes vulnerability. They didn't say she was guilty. They just said they needed an example, someone to take responsibility, to restore trust, to show that no one is above reproach. Maddie stood silent as the commander read the report. This has caused damage to morale. There will be consequences. She looked around the room. Eyes avoided hers. Not one person stood up for her. Not even the women who knew she hadn't done it. They gave her two options: deny it and be discharged for insubordination, or submit to a symbolic punishment to maintain order. And so for me, and so for... She tried to speak.
Sir, I didn't.
But the words were dry in her mouth. The moment had already passed. She wasn't being offered a choice. She was being offered a stage, and the chair was waiting. They said it wouldn't take long, just a few minutes. Just a gesture, a symbolic act to show unity, accountability, closure. They called it protocol. But Maddie knew what it really was, a performance. And she was the final scene. The media room had been cleared. No journalists, no press. Just one chair in the center, plastic, bolted to the ground, a folded black cape resting on the seat. Two uniformed officers stood off to the side. Silent, unreadable, a Clippers kit lay open on a metal tray. And waiting in the corner, a small camera, recording. Already live, Maddie stood still for a moment. 1,000 thoughts swarmed in her chest, but none made it to her lips. She looked to the lieutenant who had escorted her. His eyes wouldn't meet hers. She sat down. The chair was cold, the room colder. The cape was draped over her shoulders, a tight knot tied at her neck. Her hands gripped the armrests, knuckles pale, and then the buzzing. She flinched. The first pass began at the nape of her neck. The clippers chewed through what little she had left. Each lock that fell felt heavier than the last. Not just hair, but years of service, dignity, and faith in the people around her. She could feel it in her throat, that rising heat, that burning pressure behind her eyes. Still, she didn't cry. Not yet. But her heart was screaming.
I didn't do it. Why won't anyone believe me?
Maddie.
Please, I didn't do this. I will never.
The clippers didn't stop. No one replied. The officer behind her just pressed firmer, more deliberate, as if she were a canvas, as if justice was a haircut. Her vision blurred, not from tears, but from shame. She had stood in training, carried wounded men on her back, survived storms and sleepless nights, but nothing felt as cruel as this chair. She wasn't being punished for breaking rules. She was being punished for being seen, for rising too fast, for being the name on the lips of too many civilians. The system had lifted her up until it needed someone to burn. Silence. She sat there, shorn, raw, stripped bare. She looked down. Her lap was full of golden strands. They looked foreign now, dead, like someone else's story. A mirror was offered to her. She didn't take it. She didn't want to know, didn't want to see the new face they'd made her wear. Instead, she stood slowly. The cape slid off her shoulders, like a shroud.
Maddie, can I go now?
No one answered. They just nodded. She walked out alone, the hallway echoing every step. Back in her quarters, she sat on the edge of her cot, rocking gently. The room felt different now, colder, smaller, like it no longer belonged to her. No one came by. No one knocked. The girls in her unit avoided her gaze at meals. The few who once laughed with her now whispered. The shame stuck to her skin, more tightly than the buzzed hair on her scalp. And still no one believed her. Not even the ones who had once called her sister. That night, Maddie sat in the dark. No phone, no mirror, no uniform. Just herself and the silence. She whispered the words no one let her say aloud. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. But the walls didn't answer. And neither did justice. Until a knock came. And with it, a flash drive. 3 days passed. Maddie stayed mostly in her bunk. She kept her cap on even in bed. She skipped group meals, showers, smiles. No one said her name out loud anymore. Not with kindness, not with respect, just in whispers, like a cautionary tale. The knock came just after midnight. Soft, hesitant, she opened the door. No one there, just a small black flash drive. Resting on the floor, balanced on a folded sticky note. One word written in all caps. Truth. She didn't hesitate. Maddie slid the drive into her laptop and opened the only folder inside. Evidence. 17 video files. Each time-stamped, each silent, each raw. She watched, one by one, angles of the base hallways, locker rooms, supply closets, some from hidden vents, and then footage from the showers. The night before the leak, a woman enters frame, blonde, tall, tactical gloves. She drags a chair under the vent, unscrews the panel, reaches inside. In her hand, a small black device. The camera. She mounts it with practiced precision, checks its angle, taps the blinking Wi-Fi transmitter, then steps down. The face is clear. Janako, another soldier. A woman Maddie had trained beside for nearly a year. She remembered the forced smiles, the side eyes, the brittle claps when Maddie's poster went up in the mess hall. Maddie paused the video. The Wi-Fi network name triggered by the transmitter, MZ Hall, Ross, 84. Her name, her birth year, her sentence. It wasn't an accident, not mistaken identity. It was intentional, precise. Someone had weaponized her name, and the entire system believed it. She sat still, not angry, not relieved, just hollow, like the truth didn't heal anything, only proved how willing they were to burn her. Because no one had asked, what if we're wrong? It wasn't until days later that she learned where the drive had come from. Not officially, no names. Just a whisper over instant eggs and stale toast.
I couldn't watch them do that to you.
A young private, quiet, thin. He had barely spoken 5 words to Maddie, ever. Just another ghost in her training unit. But he had seen Jenna. He had heard her brag, watched her install the camera. And when Maddie's world collapsed, he copied the footage and left it on her pillow in the dark. Maddie.
They needed someone to blame, and I was the perfect face for it.
The poster girl, poster traitor, poster threat, all without a trial. The next day, Maddie walked into the command office. No knock, no salute. She dropped the flash drive on the table.
You want to see what's on that?
No one stopped her. No one asked questions. No one said sorry. By noon, Jenna Cole was escorted off the base. No handcuffs, no headlines, just gone, like it had never happened. But it had, for Maddie, it had happened. Every moment, every silence, every stolen strand. The truth didn't erase it. It only made the betrayal louder. She was free, but not healed, only awake. She didn't wait for a ceremony, didn't want her name back in gold letters, didn't want her face reprinted on any walls. The truth had come, too late. And Maddie Ross was done waiting for justice to apologize. She folded her fatigues one last time. Each patch, each stripe, each medal, placed carefully into a small cardboard box. She left the box behind. The duffel she carried out held only her journal, a photo of her family, and a hoodie that still smelled like civilian life. She didn't say goodbye to anyone, not the commanding officer who looked away when she begged for a second chance, not the fellow soldiers who had once trained beside her, now walking past her like she didn't exist. The shame wasn't hers anymore, but neither was the place. As she exited the barracks, a breeze lifted the hem of her coat. It touched the bare skin behind her ears, where hair had once fallen in soft waves. She didn't reach to cover it. She let it show. The world had already taken it from her. She refused to flinch anymore. On the bus, no one looked twice. Just another passenger. Another soul on Long Road. Out of something they'd once believed in, she sat by the window, watched the base disappear through smudged glass. No tears, no regrets.
Just air. Corporal Maddie Ross, a shining example of American grit. Decorated, disciplined, dedicated. She represents everything we stand for.
Those voices didn't mean anything anymore. They were never about her. They were about the idea of her. A mannequin in camo, a poster girl made of paper, and paper burns easily. She wasn't leaving because she was weak. She was leaving because she was awake. The system had only needed her when she was shiny, quiet, compliant. But the moment she was flawed, or worse, human, they cut her down like a bad haircut. The city rose on the horizon, a blur of new beginnings. Somewhere in that concrete was a cheap apartment she'd already paid for, a part-time job waiting at a bookstore. Nothing glorious, but hers. She stepped off the bus with no uniform, no rank, no orders. And for the first time in years, no mask. They shaved my head, took my name, tried to silence me with shame. But it didn't kill the part that mattered, the part that thinks, that questions, that walks away. She wasn't their poster anymore. She was her own sentence, her own story, and no one else would write the ending. Not this time.